Welcome to The Craft. I'm your host, May Globus. This podcast is a collection of intimate conversations on artistry, mastery, and life with talented, passionately curious creatives and entrepreneurs. Most are dear friends, some are those I've admired from afar. I hope you enjoy these conversations, this exploration of the humanity that connects all of us, as much as I do having them. Thank you for being here and for listening. Entrepreneur Ashley Freeborn is magnetic in every sense of the word. The Los Angeles-based founder and CEO of popular fashion brand Smash Tess has a powerful, energizing presence you feel as soon as you're in her orbit. She grew up in Tsawwassen, the daughter of hardworking, type A parents. Her stylish, pioneering mother is the CEO and president of a financial institution, and her father was the fire chief of Delta. Goal setting was ingrained in her at a young age, and Ashley set about to become an educator, receiving her master's in education before moving into corporate training and culture for a number of years. In 2014, she did the summer program at Conde Nast in London, and from there, Smash Tess came to be. In this conversation, we explore growing up with a mother that truly loved what she did and continually works to advance opportunities for women, what it was like launching a brand with both her best friend and mother, where the name Smash Tess comes from, and its recent collabo with Hilary Duff, her journey with Crohn's disease, and the importance of self-advocacy and asking questions when it comes to your health, her lens on raising two inquisitive daughters in this world, and more. Please enjoy this wide-ranging episode with the amazingly fearless Ashley Freeborn. Ashley Freeborn.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to The Craft.
I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I'm
In
excited.
person?
In person, yes. We met through our mutual friend, Melania Dela Cruz.
Mhm.
You also work with her.
I
She
do.
does PR for your company.
I've known her for years actually, but
Ah.
only sort of through people, and like we've stayed in touch, and then it was like a full circle moment. There was an opportunity to work together, and it's been
that's
so
awesome.
great.
That's
Yeah.
so great. Yeah. And she's mentioned your name a number of times, in the past. And she's like, I think you need to meet Ashley. Like, she is amazing and you guys will get along and she's got a great story.
Aw.
And so, yeah, here we are. We connected over Zoom while you were in LA
Yes.
during the quarantine.
Yes.
And it was a great conversation. So I'm happy to have you in here.
Yeah, it was such a good conversation.
Yeah,
And,
it really was.
I'm so excited because this marks my first time back in Vancouver in 17 months. So
Yeah.
Um,
welcome home.
yeah, feels good. It feels
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like you'd think it's a subtle cultural difference between Americans and Canadians, but it's quite tangible. So like to be home, in my hometown with my family, and
Yeah.
it's just the best.
What is that subtle, tangible difference to you?
It's something about, and I don't know what this says about Americans, so I'm not going to claim, but I think Canadians, there's a curiosity that I find amongst Canadians where it's like wanting to know more about the world or the cultures or, why people tick. And I think that sort of, even though we might listen to the same music and we might read the same books and we may talk similarly, look similarly, I think that there's actually just a difference in what we're sort of made of, and it's hard to put your finger on it. It really is. And I can just say my crazy words without. I can say root instead of route, and it feels good.
Yeah. Or roof instead of rough.
I can say, I can't do rough. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah.
Like I have tried to change, so I do say route now.
Yeah.
But rough, I can't do. Or
No.
foyer, I can't do foyer. It's foyer and that's it.
Well, even subtle differences like hand and hand,
Mm-hmm.
or game and game.
Yeah, I
they
get made fun of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even hear it. Or I always say against weird instead of against. I say against. Yeah,
Yeah, you're still
what can
a
I
Canadian
say?
girl at heart.
I know. But I mean, LA's been such a lovely place to raise my kids and made good friends, and the weather's so beautiful, and so there's so much good there too. But yeah, there's just something about coming home. No matter how beautiful, the place you live in, it's always good to come home.
Yeah, always. And I know you told me, but where in LA do you live? Just because it has a special place in my heart too. All my family's
yeah?
down there. I spent a number of years there.
Yeah,
as a
we're
child
in South Bay, so We're
Okay.
in Redondo Beach area.
Beautiful.
And yeah, I'm a little limited just because I fly a lot, or I did fly a lot and will fly a lot. And I can't, like, the soonest I can get home to my family, the better. And so I've always stay around LAX. So Redondo's only 15 minutes. So by the time I land, I've got it down to a science. I'm home with my babies before bed. That's my motivation. And as much as I'm like dying to live somewhere cool, like I'm like, oh, let's move to West Hollywood just for fun, or Beverly, but I just
you'd have to wind your way.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
So and
Venice?
I can't complain.
How about Venice?
Yeah, Venice is really cool. Anywhere
it
near
there.
the water is, it's pretty lovely. It's always like 10 degrees cooler in Redondo Beach.
I agree.
All my friends
Anywhere
in the
near
valley,
the water,
it's like hot, and so yeah, I'm lucky.
Well, welcome home for a little bit, and let's get right to your childhood.
Okay.
Tell me about your childhood. You grew up in Richmond, or you were born in Richmond?
No, I was born at the hospital in Richmond. I grew up in Tsawwassen.
Okay.
With my family, and I have an older brother, and my mom and my dad both are incredible type A overachievers. My mom is the CEO president of a financial institution. My dad was the fire chief of Delta. Both were like hard workers, flipping houses as we grew up. And my brother's like a free spirit punk rocker, and covered in tattoos. You can't barely see his skin. My parents divorced when I was 12. And so my mom moved into the city, into Vancouver. And that's when I started to split my time. So I went to high school here in Vancouver, and then just went back and forth through the rest of my high school years.
Yeah. Well, if you were going to tell me more about your mom, what would you say?
My mom is, well, here's the thing. My mom's pretty incredible. She was in finance, in the 80s, 90s, and, shoulder pads and all. And, was really like pioneering, I think, the way for professional women and women in leadership. And it wasn't easy, especially at the time. I think, she actually started, I think, a nanny agency because it was like hard to find nannies. So she started an agency while she was working full time, and then eventually I think sold it. But the point is, she was imagining a different way of doing things, and having that kind of balance, and getting to work and also have her family was something really important to her. And so I often say, like, having a mom that truly loved what she did, it was such a impactful experience for me, because I got to see what it was like, for a woman, my mom, to love something so much and to have that passion. And I think that's a lot of the reason why I think I've gone through life, just setting goals and tackling them, and not truly understanding like why I can't do what I want to do, because my mom was like, you can like do anything. I'm going to show you, and so she showed me my whole life. And so it's a strong female, legacy that I'm hoping to continue to pass to my kids. And now it's funny, like, it's such a different industry that she was in, but for me, it reminds me of my childhood now, raising my girls. It's like, I got to go to work. Mom's got a work conference call. And now Frankie, my 4-year-old, she's laughed. She'll be like, I'm doing the financials, Mom. And she pretends to do. And she'll be like, oh, I've got to go to work. I'm very busy. And, she'll pretend on her computer. And but the beauty of it is now, because of the way things have changed, I get to work from home. My kids get to be even more a part of what I do. How cool would it have been if I got to watch my mom work, But that wasn't the case back then. But so my mom is a lot of fun. She's very fashionable. She's very young at heart. People are drawn to her. She has a magnetism. My kids are in love with her. They worship her. And she's a hard ass for sure.
Yeah, she's a boss lady.
She's
as they
a boss
say.
lady for sure.
Yeah,
but I'm excited for her. Like, it's she's entering sort of another chapter of her life, and I think I'm hoping she's talking about writing a book, and she really believes in advancing women in leadership. She does a lot of work with the Global Women's Leadership Network through the credit unions industry, and she's chairing that, I think, right now. It's a world council. So it's she's really passionate about that. So it feels right that I have 2 daughters. It's like this strong.
You're passing it on.
Yeah.
Were you, when you were growing up, was it more in hindsight that you were like, oh yeah, mom really taught me all these things? Or was it like when you were young, you really did see it and you were in admiration of it?
Well, I think it was hard. I mean, it was hard being younger and seeing all of my friends getting picked up from their moms. That was really the way. Like, most of the moms of my friends didn't work in like the early 90s, late 80s. And so it was difficult. Like, my mom couldn't pick me up, or she couldn't come to after school things. Sometimes she would travel and be gone for 3 nights a week. And I missed her so much. And I didn't understand in that moment, like, why. And I think it certainly came from like years and years and years of really like understanding that experience for me and making sense of it and how important it was. But I think when you're young, all you care about is like, I just want my mom.
Yeah, you just want to be with your mom.
Yeah, you just want to be with your mom. So it's really tough to understand in the moment. And, and I think she struggled to find balance. I think it wasn't easy. I don't think she was always at every event she wanted to be at or that I wanted her to be at. And I'm sure she looks back and is like, well, I wish there might have been more I could have done. But at the same time, I think the gift it's given me is so much more than any of those sort of like little experiences that might have felt disappointing in the moment.
Right. Well, that's really interesting too, because your mom was making her way at a time where women really had to prove themselves. So she probably felt like, I have to show up to that thing, even though I don't want to, because I'm forging the way, I'm one of those.
She never talked about her kids at work. She struggled to breastfeed. There wasn't really anywhere for her to do that and pump milk. Like, I think she had to hide her family. And what's beautiful now is that, like, especially with COVID, one of the silver linings is like our families are like infused into what we do. You see them in the background,
yes.
You're juggling one on a call, like, and so I think it's an exciting time to like actually support women in business, and whatever that means, if it's, different work schedule, if it's, working from home, if whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think, at the time it was, she just, I think, pretended probably like she really didn't have kids because she didn't want to be seen as, like being weak or soft or like having baggage, or, she wanted to be considered for the same job she wanted to be. So I'm sure like you really had to have a thick skin. Thankful for women that went through that era. We're in a much better place.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about, being on work calls and you're seeing kids in the background. I mean, that goes for men and women too, and dads. It just lent this other layer of humanity to your colleagues.
Totally. Totally. I think it's a great thing. I think it was ready. It's, we were ready for this. So
I agree. And your dad?
My dad is, he's also like so type A, strong driver, like up at 6 a.m, military style. And he loved work, and he excelled. I think he's won some medals, fighting the Burns bog fires. He's super healthy and fit. He's a black belt. He's like, he runs every day.
He does all the things.
He's like, he makes me look like I'm like ancient and he's my age. But he was really, my dad, he was the one who like you would dread asking for anything because he'd always say no. He was really strict, but my dad was also like, he's the one person, like if I call, he always answers. Like if I think he's very present in a way where I've always felt like he's a rock to me. Like he's my he'll always answer my FaceTimes. I'm like, how do I put a drywall plug in, Dad? And he'll FaceTime me to put the drywall plug in. Like he's just very like, he's involved in that way. And he always was. He coached I played really competitive softball growing up, and he was one of our coaches. And We've always had fun. We dirt bike ride together, since I was young all the way till just recently, like when before I had my first one. He taught me how to fish, he taught me how to camp. Like he's quite grounded. Like he likes to be in nature.
Sounds like you did a lot of adventures with him.
Lots of adventures. Yeah. And
so that's where I read somewhere that you love motorcycles. So that must be where the dirt biking and
I grew up dirt bike riding, and then realized like to dirt bike ride you have to drive really far, and then it's like a big thing. So then I was like got into motorcycles and had one and went through that. But then I had my baby, and my husband quite rightly is like, you have 2 little babies. And he doesn't trust other people on the road, and it's fair. I mean, it's a super dangerous like mode of transportation. So I've been talking recently about getting another motorcycle though.
Okay.
Yeah. He's at the end of the day, he's like, it's up to you, but he's like, it's really dangerous. And I'm like, it's true. And LA is like bonkers. It's very unsafe. So on a motorcycle, but I do love being on a motorcycle. So I'm kind of this like my mom and I have these like very cosmopolitan experiences. My mom and I love to like go to New York and go shopping and like go to the spa, and like we just love that sort of like plays, and like that's what we do. And then my dad is like the opposite. He's like, I want to go camping. I want to be quiet. I want to be on a boat. I want to be on a motorcycle. And so it's the yin and yang of who I am, really. Is like it's this sort of like paradoxical, but I've got both.
But
of
you're
them
like
in me.
it's like multi-layered. It's really wonderful to be able to have all those kind of sides and outlets.
I'm
for
grateful
oneself,
for
right?
it. Like I'm grateful for the experiences that I had, and often think to myself, darn it, I can't really give my daughters the same experience, but I want to. I'm gonna ship them up to see Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say like, they need more time with Grandpa.
Exactly. He can handle it.
And you, what were you like as a kid?
I think I was kind of a natural born leader. I really love being on a team. And so like whether throughout my life I did the best in like team sports. I was always the captain of the team. I love winning together. Like I love the whole experience. And even when I got pretty good at softball, I remember I was able to play like a higher level rep, and I decided not to because I just really wanted to play with the team that like I had worked with for so many years. And I think like I was definitely shy when I was younger, but I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to play sports, and I love my family. Like I've always been really family oriented. Like I love Christmas Eve with my family. We have tradition, I love dinners together. Like I love to see my cousins. Like I love to, so that hasn't changed. And I'm excited about the experiences like I can give my daughters of like what that, what that's going to feel like for them. So, I think that sums it up. I think I have I love being around people, and like
it sounds like it.
I'm inquisitive. Like I like to learn about people, and I was like that as a kid. Like I really, and I think that's why I probably went into education, was I just love community and people,
Right. Yeah. And so you went to Simon Fraser.
I did.
And then got your master's.
Degrees.
Yeah, master's of education.
Too many degrees. I feel like I was in school for like my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, traumatized. I don't want to ever go back.
Wasn't that something your dad said to you? He really wanted you to have an education and a secure job?
Well, it's an interesting place. Like now as young women, I think there's so many more young women entrepreneurs, like 20-year-olds coming out and killing it. I remember I sat on a panel with her name's Tara. Is it Bosch? She started Smart Suites, and we were on a panel. Yeah. And I remember sitting, I said I was the geriatric of the panel. All the women were like 23 years old, and I was like 34. And I remember being like, or maybe I was even older. And I remember just being like in awe of these women who were like killing it, taking on the world. But as a kid, like as a high school student, I didn't see that, because social media, one of the many gifts it's given is that you can see now women running their own businesses, whether it's in fashion or lifestyle or whatever, and aspire to that and be like, actually, I can do that. Whereas when I was 16, the World Wide Web was just like coming into play. And so I never saw anything. There was no social media. And so I didn't know I could be an entrepreneur. And the concept of that seemed crazy. I was like, what is that? A store owner? Like, what is an entrepreneur? Like, I didn't know. And my dad was really set on like, you need a pension, you need benefits, you need to come out of school and get a job. You need to like, and my mom was like, you should be in business. And it's, I don't know why it really scared me. Like the idea of going into business freaked me out. I felt like it was too risky. I felt like, what, could I actually have a career in that? It seemed dog eat dog. It seemed all of those things. And so I always did really well in English, and I was like, I could be an English teacher. So I did an undergrad. I did 2 undergrads. I did one in English sociology and one in education, and then did my postgrad in education, and then went back and did my master's after I started working as a teacher. And I felt like in a lot of ways that filled my cup. And like hanging out with kids is a privilege. It's a gift. It's like, I have some very fond memories and connections with the kids that I got to work with. I always worked in high school. I wasn't great with the little ones. I preferred to like teach the subject, versus like how to them to be a human, because that's really hard. But I really love that. And we put on, in my last 6 years of teaching, I worked with theater kids, so we put on huge shows and we did it together. And so much of what I do now, it's funny, like as I reflect on like how that has anything to do with what I'm doing, but like I always would say felt like I was running a mini business, because we would fund ourselves. We would be in these kids, we would put on these huge things together. We work on it all year. Sometimes we make $20,000-$30,000 on a show, and like then be able to put on a bigger show the next year. It was like we were running our own business in the theater world, and at the same time,
and building community. Building
community. And that was the part that was like, I love that so much. Like I love that the theater was a place where the kids would come and just be like, relax, like this is my space. I can be exactly who I want to be in this space. I can feel uplifted. I can feel supported. I can feel no matter what the heck's going on outside of this room, like this is my safe space. And so when I think of why Smash and Tess, for me, it's like that's always been important to me. It's like having a community where people feel safe, protected, uplifted, right? And that's where I'm like, we're more than a clothing brand. Like we create clothing that makes people feel genuinely good, and creating a community, whether it's through give back or just like the conversations we're having, or that I feel that I'm accomplishing a similar thing in just a very different way.
Yeah.
So
and
now that I reflect on it all.
Yeah. And it really just sounds like an extension of you, right? And how you sort of live and operate, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, before I forget this
Yeah,
thought, what you were saying about sitting on the panel with all of these young women who are doing amazing things, and you're talking about, the kids that you were teaching in high school. And so yesterday I went to, a friend of mine, Movi, is an incredible artist. He was also on the podcast. He put together this thing last night at Dunbar Theatre where he was showing the music videos of other people who are assigned to his label or musician friends that he really admires. And, it was just an intimate gathering. And I remember watching these videos and watching these kids' talent, and like the way that they were putting, these are 19, 20-year-old musicians and cinematographers, and they were able to create I was inspired as the geriatric in the room.
Isn't it a weird place to be?
I know. Like, oh my God.
Aren't I still 20?
Yeah.
I feel like it.
I said to a friend after, I'm like, if I was a young mom, I could be their mom.
Yeah, totally. I could be. Yeah.
So, but anyways, I just wanted to say, like, it's really warms my heart that I can be also inspired by younger people and youth.
It's pretty cool. And like, I think it's just more accessible. Like, I was watching this documentary. I love like music from the 50s and 60s. And I was watching this documentary on like Richie Valens and Dion and like, the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly. And I was shocked. I was like, Dion, or one of them, Richie Valens was 17 years old, like traveling around.
Was he?
He was 17 when he died. And that was the peak of his career. And I was like, so this is not a new thing. Like there are very talented humans that like are, but what's cool is this sort of entrepreneurial side for me. That's really exciting to see, is like coming out and being like, I'm actually going to actually create my own path. I'm actually going to take my idea and I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and do it right now. And like having the tools to do that is really cool. And then seeing other people is so inspirational. You're like, I could do that. Like, why couldn't I do that? And I think we see it more now. It's easier, right?
Yes.
To see
Yep.
On all scales, not just like of course you might see Buddy Holly on TV TV, but like Richie Valens on TV, but like now you're seeing it all over your phone, everywhere you go. Like young people are accomplishing really cool stuff. So
yeah, and they can inspire you, but don't forget, like the previous generations inspire them too, because hearing them talk about their music videos last night, you know, the font that they were using, totally like 70s or 80s.
Right.
One kid was like, oh, my music video is inspired by Wong Kar-wai. Oh. I was like, wow, what?
Yeah.
So,
well, I was inspired by Bob Dylan. I've loved him my whole life. And I mean, I never, I wasn't in that era. So I totally get it. It's just kind of weird when they're referring to things that are like in your life and you're like, oh, I'm that vintage now. Got it. Got it.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. I'm vintage.
Totally. I'm retro. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Those are good terms. I'm going to use those too. But anyways, to loop back, so educator, and then you moved into corporate training and culture.
Yeah.
And finance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had been itching for a change. I think as much as I love my connection with kids, I was fine. I was working really late nights and like till 11 o'clock at night all the time. And I just wanted a new challenge. I love new challenge. I always say like all the learning happens when you're thrown off balance, right? So it's like if you're doing the same thing every day, I wasn't feeling like I was evolving as a human. And so I had a fateful dinner where I sat beside a COO who offered me a job, and it was in LA and I was in Vancouver, and I took it. And I was like, started my own consulting firm so that while I worked on my green card. And that actually enabled me to start Smash Tess, because if I had been teaching and didn't have flexibility in my schedule, there's no way I wouldn't have been able to do both. So Smash Tess started really around the same time that I took this other job. And so, and when you look back, you're like, oh, right. Like everything hard or good happens for a reason. And it's like, oh my God, it was all supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
And I remember saying so I went and then I did that, and I sold portfolioed loans to other financial institutions. Really my job was to I put on lots of suits and I went to lots of conferences and I chatted with lots of CEOs, and it was great. And then I went I made a pitch to kind of run their culture and talent development program because I had a graduate degree in education and thought that I could really do some good by helping build their culture and their training and everything. So moved into that. And by the time, so Smash Tess kind of came to market, that happened in 2016. Smash Tess came to market in 2016. And so by the time we were starting to really take off, I immigrated to the US. And so I brought my best friend into the mix because I was like, my mom lives in LA. Now I'm moving to LA. I'm like, who's going to run it here? And so my best friend joined Smash Tess at that point. And then I was in LA not long at all. Had my first child. I was hugely pregnant by the time I finally got the green card. And I only worked for maybe 6 months when I finally immigrated before I actually had to quit and just go into Smash Tess because it started to like really take off.
Right. And prior to that, a couple years prior to that, you went to London. And
I had a huge meltdown personally. And
I wanted to know what the pivotal moment in your purpose was.
I was engaged to somebody else, not my husband now. And I called it off. And then my mom, I felt super lost. I felt like super confused. I was teaching, and my mom came to town. She always did, would fly in this when I was in Vancouver, and she had a Vogue magazine, and she was like ripped out this page, and she was like, you get the summers off. And she was like, Vogue is doing their first summer intensive in the UK. And she's like, you should go. And I was like, I don't know. She's like, you're going to go. We had always talked about doing like maybe PJs together or something, like opening up a store, like sourcing really cool stuff. And she's like, go, and like, let's go make this thing a reality, like see what you learn and what comes out of all of it. And so I did. And I just met my husband now. Of course, that's the life and timing. But I went anyway. And I tested my hand at a bunch of stuff. Like it was a really cool program, still probably is, but it was like, I got to do a magazine cover. I got to style shoots. I got to like everything in fashion. You got to try and see like, what were you good at? And I remember my senior lecturer, she was like, I was trying to do my Vogue like cover. And she was like, Ashley, you're just going to pay someone to do that, because this is not your skill. And I was like, okay. She was absolutely right. And in the end, I decided to just make a move and say, hey, I have this idea. I want to make clothes. I want to, wear transitional clothing, pajamas, really comfortable. and she really loved it. And so she was really pivotal in this story because she validated things. I just needed validation. I needed someone who knew something about fashion to be like, good idea. And I remember I ran outside and I called my mom and I was like, I pitched her and she loved it and she wants to consult. And so she was my first consultant after I graduated. And she helped me with my business plan and everything. And so, but it took years, like that was in 2014. So like we went to market in the spring of 2016. So between the initial concept, the business plan, finding, production houses, designs, like, and coming to life, building a website, incorporating trademarking, like, it took 2 years.
Yeah, it takes time.
Takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It takes time to build an empire.
The revolution, the romper revolution.
The romper revolution. Yeah. And so the name Smash Tess comes from your nickname and your mom's nickname, which is amazing. Yeah. When you think of how fast the brand has grown, how do you feel when you look back on how far it's come?
I feel joy. I feel gratitude. I mean, I think like I'm literally living my dream. So it's like I don't have words. I wake up every day feeling so much gratitude and excitement that I get to do what I love, that I'm surrounded with a group of people that are helping me do it, that I love Monday mornings. Like I can't wait. And everyone knows this on my team. I'm like counting the minutes until it's Monday again, because I love what I do so much. And it's I do think like people are like, do you sit back and think like, wow, I've like made it? And it's like, no, not at all. Like that doesn't, I don't know if that ever happens. Maybe it happens for people. It doesn't happen for me. I think entrepreneurs, we tend to be like so future focused. So it's like, I rarely celebrate the moments. I'm really driven to be like, well, I did that, great, but I got to do this tomorrow. So it is a intense place to live. Like you're just constantly like grinding. And so I think I always just think about all the work I have to do, basically. Is that what I'm like, I did that. Yeah. But I have so much more to do. So it's like, I don't know if I'll ever get to a place where I'm like, oh, wow, this is, but I do feel like very blessed that I have the life that I have, that I get to be around my kids. Like if I think about my stint in corporate world and thinking, oh, I had to get up and leave all day and be gone, and like that sucked, like for my kids. So I'm like, but I love work. So I love that I get to like combine that and be around my kids, but be just as productive. And and not everyone has that ability, but for me, it's my dream. Like I love that my kids are in my home, that I have a nanny that helps me. And so I get the best of both worlds, and they don't leave without giving me kisses. I see them, throughout the day multiple times. I can go to doctor's appointments. so I have that balance, and that's what I'm really
you have a
grateful
life.
for.
Like you can have a more balanced life. And that's great.
Yeah.
You keep on talking about like how much you love what you do. And I wanted to dig like a little bit deeper. Yeah. If you were going to say one or two things about what you do that you really love, like what would you say? I
love that. Like so people are like, so you dreamt of being an entrepreneur? It's like, no, I absolutely didn't. Lifestyle terrifies me. But I love now, I can never go back. Like the rush and of the creativity that flows from like sitting in a room of people virtually lately, and being like, hey, it'd be really fun is if we did this thing. And then everyone's like, that would be super fun. I'm like, let's do it tomorrow. Like, and so like, that was the other thing I felt like in corporate life and even in teaching, like you have all these ideas and it was like, there's these layers, and sometimes things just get shot down because just didn't get to the right person or it's not the right time. And like, now I get to do what I want to do. And that for me is just like fuel. Like it's like being able to be creative and just affect change so quickly, and test things and learn things is super cool. And the other side is like focusing on uplifting women in a way where, I know that like there's this sort of standard for women, what we're supposed to look like, how we're supposed to act. And I think it's exhausting. And I think 9 times out of 10, fashion makes us feel less than. We feel like we don't fit into those jeans today, or we don't look like that person, or we don't. And so women are just constantly like just bombarded by this sort of feeling less than, feeling like, and I think fashion's a huge culprit. I think fashion has really hurt women a lot over the years. And so for me, in this place that I'm in now, and it's not one that I necessarily set out to do, but what I do now that it's evolving is like creating fashion that actually makes you feel good. And you can't tell you how many direct messages I get of women being like, well, I don't know, like I was going to get the large. I think I'm going to wait till I lose like 15 pounds. And then I'm like, girl, you got to get the romper that fits you right now and you're going to look beautiful. And you guess what? You can gain 10 pounds. You can lose 10 pounds. It's not going to matter because you can wear the same friggin' piece of clothing and it's going to look just as good. So I think like for us, Smash and Tess too, we've fought the norms of fashion, this industry. And like for me, a big moment was getting into Vogue, because when we were trying to build this, people were kind of like, yeah. And I'm not going to like name names and stuff, but I still think fashion in Canada, like they single out like haute couture, they single out, and that's great. Like they should, but at the same time, like what is fashion? You know, like I think in COVID, we've all decided what fashion is. Like we get to wear what we want to wear and it's going to be comfortable. And now we're going to see this sort of trickle into going back to the office, going back, like we've changed the way we perceive fashion. And so finally it's like, you know, banging our heads against the wall, trying to be recognized in an industry or in a community that otherwise like wouldn't really recognize us. And it's the community that follows Fashion Tess that has made this happen. It's the people that are like, screw you, I'm wearing my romper to work with a blazer and flats, and I'm wearing like, and it's my best thing I ever own. And like the confidence of watching women wear the clothing like doesn't get old. And like I feel so blessed. Like when I see people, like it's their birthday, a 4-year-old's birthday, and they're wearing Smash and Tess. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that doesn't get old. It's like the best feeling in the world to be a part of those special moments and to see the smiles on their faces and like the comfort and like the confidence, you know?
Yeah.
And
I
like
agree.
we live really, women, it's complex now. Like we're moms, we're professionals, we're sisters, we're, you know, friends, we're wearing all of these different hats. And it's like, do you really want to wake up in the morning and figure out what to wear? It's like, don't you like, so it's like simple. I know what it's like. It's very stressful. Like my calendar's ridiculous. And it's like, I love that Smash and Tess gets to just simplify the lives of busy women everywhere. We help women live big lives easily. You know, like that's what we set out to do.
And at the end of the day, the way that have always seen fashion, because I'm a fashion lover, is that it's the truest expression of yourself. So it's like, if that's what you feel like putting on, that's great. If you want to wear it casually, great. You said put it on with like a blazer and heels, great. Is that who you are? And the confidence. You know, when you see, I think there's a difference between saying like fashion and style. Like fashion, you can wear fashion, but style is like that confident feeling. It's like when you see a woman, you're like, she has style, and you may not like wear
not
the
be
style.
The same style.
But you're like, style. Oh yeah, she's got. And what you're really saying is, oh, she's got confidence to pull off
she's confident.
The best expression of what she wants to show today. Yeah. So I really love that, and I love the inclusivity that you have. It really is a celebration of all bodies. This, you know,
that's the goal.
Smash and Tess.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Like I see small like startup fashion brands, and I'm like, I feel for them because it's not easy to have this many sizes. And so I always say like, there's more we can do, and I think we're just committed to that journey. So it's like every season we roll out another size, and so now we have like 3 extra small all the way to 4 extra large. And that's been like a journey of, you know, it's a lot of sizes. And so, and we'll probably keep adding because like that's the commitment that we have. So our community has been really patient with us as we continue to like grow and be able to afford to roll out new sizes. And so we've been really lucky in that regard. We just have a really strong, loyal, you know, supported group. So,
and you've done some pretty cool collaborations. Your recent one with Hilary Duff, which I saw in Vogue and so many other places. That's super, super amazing. So it seems like just this world of Smash and Tess is growing, and must be such an amazing feeling in your heart.
Yeah, like it's cool. And I think what I love about, like, we do collabs, we do a lot, you know, like when you look at a brand, it's like we do a lot of collabs. But I love that about us because that's who I am. That's who the team is. Like we love working together. Like that for me is where I get my energy. It's like I want to like get creative with other people. I don't want to just do the thing that like other people are doing. I want to do it with the person who like really pioneered that thing, or like, you know, like that's what excites me. And like working with Hilary was such an organic process of like, she was like, come over to my house and like, let's hang out. And then it was like, we got along. Okay, cool. Do you want to do clothes together? Yeah, let's do clothes together. This is some of my ideas. And like, so that was such a beautiful, fun, and organic process, similar to like my other collaborations. But I think like, magic happens when like your heart's in the right place and you're both like really motivated, to like do the same thing. And with Hilary having like 3 kids now and multiple businesses and her career and everything, she was like, I want to help women and moms, and I want to simplify. I want to make cute clothes that'll, you know, and that's what she wanted to do. So we did. And it was cool. And so, and I get it's so fun when you have collabs. It's like, it's almost like a whole other business because we do so many of them that it's
like a different arm.
It's like crazy. It's like a whole, but you know, it's really fulfilling, and we're just blessed that like, you know, someone like Hilary would want to work with us when I'm sure she could work with lots of other brands. So.
And so much more to come, I'm sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wanted to pivot away from the business side of it and go into the personal. Because you've had to deal with Crohn's disease for a very, very long time. And I want to go into that and chat about what discovering that was like, and, you know, what the journey's been like and what you've learned about yourself in life.
Yeah. I say like it's made me chronically creative. I think that like for me, I'm so headstrong, I'm so tenacious. People often ask me like why do you think you succeed? You know, like why is your business when I'm like, well, it's just pure tenacity. It's like one foot in front of the other and you keep going and you get lots of no's and you can't sit in those no's. And I think being sick, as long as I've been sick, has sort of taught me that, because I think when you're told like a million different times, like you can't do that, you can't get out of bed, you can't have children, you know, you probably can't live a normal life, you get really resourceful. Like you get really creative. You start to be like, no, I can. Like, have we tried this medicine? Have we thought about this opportunity? And so I think that experience of being sick has helped me in that way. It's also like I was diagnosed. I've often people with Crohn's have a similar story where something very acute happened in their lives, like something. I was talking to this nurse who I was getting my infusion from, and she's like, oh, my son got it. He got really stressed, and bam, he got Crohn's. So it's like it's living in you, and then something happens. And I always had a bad stomach and was misdiagnosed for years. Like I remember when doctor telling me I just had indigestion, and I was throwing up every night when I was like 20 to 22. It was in my stomach, I guess, at the time. And then, you know, so I didn't advocate for myself enough. Which is super important. And so I just kind of like took it. And then when it was the night of my master's comp exam, and I was presenting to a panel of professors, and all of a sudden I was just doubled over in pain, and we were supposed to go for beers and celebrate, and I couldn't. I was just doubled. I could barely get off the hill, and lived like that, lost 40 pounds because, again, doctors were telling me, you're just, you know, maybe you have a parasite. No, you don't have that. I don't know. They didn't know. And so I lost 40 pounds in like 2 months, just like withering away. Couldn't keep my nutrients in. I was so sick, and then didn't want to eat. And then I was finally diagnosed. Had terrible doctor, terrible bedside manner, told me I probably wouldn't have kids. Lots of misinformation about the disease. Like, I think it's still relatively new. So like, even though it's so common, people don't talk about it. So it's like a very, you know, they call it the invisible disease for multiple reasons. But, so it was a hard time for me. It was very scary. I was in my late 20s, and I didn't know what that meant for me. And I was, of course, really sick. And, you know, the symptoms of Crohn's are not pleasant. So figuring out, you know, how, if I was going to find a partner that wanted to deal with that, like, would I be able to have kids to stabilize enough, was really scary. And luckily, you know, I've been able to do pretty well with my disease, and I've probably tried 6 different medications. I struggled to get pregnant my second time because I got really sick after my first, but I did. I had both my babies, and they're beautiful. And for the most part, my quality of life is pretty good. But that's a result of like just a lot of self-advocacy. Like, people wanted to take my colon out like 4 times. I've had surgeons like, we'll take it out, we'll give you a break, we'll put it back, like we can bypass it for a while and then we'll, and I just fought against, I was like, no, I don't want that. So like, what are my options, you know? And like, just being
educated, like educating yourself and exploring options.
And I see young kids like going through it, and then, you know, doctors, and I get it. They're acting with the best of intentions, but like, this is about, for me, like and some people are so sick that they don't have a choice. Like, and that's, you know, every journey is different. But I think what I learned was the importance of like asking questions, doing my reading, figuring out, like going to a different doctor if it didn't feel like that was the right fit for me. I've bounced around quite a bit, like, and just being, you know, dogged about that. And as a result, like, I think it's taught me I'm tougher for sure. I have a lot more grit. I get through every day. Like, it's not always pleasant, but it's kind of my life. And I always said, if I could just have my kids, I don't care. Like, that's all I want. I'm like, if I can just have my kids, I'll be so happy and grateful. And like, and luckily, you know, my health has stayed pretty consistent since then. So I'm lucky. But like I said, I think it's taught me a lot about who I am, what I'm made of, you know, and like I said, just being so creative, because when there's all these obstacles in your way, like, I really pride myself on creative problem solving. Like, I feel like that's what I do now anyway as CEO. I feel like everyone just kind of comes with problems, and then I'm like, try to help them fix it.
Yeah.
That's literally what I do all day long. You
bring solutions all
day
long.
That's it.
Yeah,
I'm like, let's brainstorm ideas. Like, and I just think try to think creatively. But I really think being sick, chronically ill, like, has helped me with that, because it's opened up this whole side of like, imagining what people will say is the impossible, you know, like, and just getting determined and like getting creative and not giving up, even though it's like so hard sometimes and I can't get out of bed, or I can't like, and also like, it's really, and I would like to do more work here, is there's a lot of work to be done for Crohn's. There's a lot of work. Like, there's not enough, you know, there's no cure. There's not a lot of resources. I've worked with Crohn's and Colitis Canada a couple times. I want to do more, because I'm just like, and people don't like to speak out about it, because it's like, do you want to talk about having bloody diarrhea to people? Like, not really. So like, people don't talk about that. And it's like, at some point we have to just be like, it's okay.
Right.
Like, everyone poos. It's okay to like be like, this is, and sometimes it's not like, it can be in my stomach where I'm just in pain all the time. Like, so it just depends. Everyone has a different journey with it, and it's like, but let's just start talking about it, because like, I don't want my kids could very well get it. One of them could, and probably maybe because they think it's hereditary. They don't know enough, but it's like, there's a lot of work and awareness and funding to be done.
Yeah, and I mean, you were talking about there's often something acute that happens, and it sounds like most of it is like stress. So like, understanding like where stress comes into play with this, and you know, and just hearing your story, there's also a level of acceptance when you have a chronic disease. You have to just say, okay, well, this is my life, and what am I going to do next about it?
Yeah. How do you deal? Right?
How do you deal?
And do you just kind of like become a victim of it, or do you just like, I get my infusions done while I'm on a conference call. I just refuse to let it be this big thing for me. It's like, it's just part of my kids know it's like my superhuman juice. I'm like, because I have to get it through IV every month, you know, and they come to my house and I get it and they see it now and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's all good. Mommy's going to be like a super human after this. And so it's just how you roll with it. So I get worse. If I get into a bad space where I'm like in my bed and I'm very like thinking so much about it, my brain goes to a bad place. I'm much happier and healthier if I can just kind of keep going through my day as best as I can. Yeah.
It's so brave.
Well, you know what? Like, I think of people that are like, it's all like, it's for relative, you know? It's like, for me, I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. But then people are like, that's terrible. I'm like, well, I guess. But I'm like, I look at people so much worse off, and I'm like, I'm lucky. I'm so lucky, you know? Yeah.
Well, also acknowledging that it's okay to feel the way that you feel sometimes about what you're going through. So yeah. Well, I'm so much enjoying our time together, and I am mindful of your time too. So just a few more questions. Sure. I wanted to go back to motherhood and your two daughters.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know what it is that you would say to them right now about what you are proud of them for.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud. I mean, one thing I enjoy so much as a mom with their age is like I'm proud of their curiosity. I feel like it's a beautiful thing to watch, like to watch them engage with the world and ask questions. And I think for me, like that's the root of like how I try to live my life now. It's like, it's egoless. It's like there's always more to learn. There's always more to like, I learn so much from, even as I mentor entrepreneurs, I'm learning so much from those people that I'm quote unquote mentoring. I hate that word because I feel like it's such a dialogue. Like it's not one way, but like I'm proud of their sort of boldness and their curiosity, their joie de vivre, like they just like, it's like watching like them interact and be like, what's this thing? Or what does that do? That's cool. And like just fearlessly sort of, and not innocently, but just like really truly like openly present and engaged with like the world is a really cool thing. And I think as you get older, you just get more and more and more like closed off and more like, you start to kind of get set in your ways and you stop asking questions and you start to think you know everything and like, and it's like really cool to watch them. And I hope they never lose that inquisitive, love.
Nature.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. And sometimes we lose it as adults. And
Yeah.
Yeah. So to get back to
and
that.
like Frankie's like, it's hard. My 1-year-old's 1. So she's like, she's the warrior. She came 2 months premature. She's my warrior. She's like, get out of my way. I'm gonna
coming.
do it. Like she's intense, and I'm just like, her teenage years. But my 4-year-old is so loving, and I am so proud of her for that. Like she'll cry. Like if she thinks she's upset me, she'll cry, and she's so much love in her heart, and I just love that. I'm like, all I want for my girls I want them to be good humans. I just want them to give back. I want them to like have compassion. I want them to like do good in the world in whatever way they choose. And so I'm really proud of my Frankie Bear for like the amount of love and compassion in her heart because it's pretty cool.
Well, you've raised them well.
I mean, I'm a crier, so she probably sees that. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation for so many reasons. And I know the first time that we connected, we were just chatting about the similarities between, you leaving a corporate job and then I left one last fall in August to pursue new things and building new businesses. So it's always nice to talk to you, someone who's also been through that and who understands the reasons why you do it. I mean, I was listening to you and I resonated so much because also, too, you were talking about the freedom to create, and I feel the same. It's like, wow, I have autonomy over what I want to build, and how fucking cool is that?
It's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
It's like the best.
Yeah.
You can't compare it. It's just...
It doesn't come out without its hardships. I'm learning
hard.
every day. But again, like so grateful to have a community that has gone through it or is willing to support and teach you things, and you learn yourself. And so extreme kudos to like what you've built. And
well, you too. I mean, it's not without lots of sleepless nights.
Of course, the grind is real.
It's real, but it's for me, it's so worth it. It's like I would trade it. I wouldn't trade it in a heartbeat.
I feel the same. So the final question that I ask everyone is, with what you do in this world, what do you want to give back to it?
Oh, so many things.
What do you want to leave behind?
There's so many things. I think if I were to I want to be kind and I want to make people feel like they belong. And I think if I can do that, if I can make people feel like they belong, I had, a terrible incidence with bullying when I was young where it was really hard on me. And ever since then, I'm like, I want people to walk into a room and feel like they're welcomed, like they're supposed to be here, that I want them here. And so if I can do that in the fashion industry, that's notoriously harsh. And if I can actually, make clothing a community, and like really fuse those things together and disrupt what I think is in need of a serious disruption, I will be very happy. And that is the legacy really of Smash and Tess. And when we say it's the romper revolution, that's what I mean. It's like changing the way we feel about ourselves and clothing, and instead of just like embracing who we are in this moment, and being, grateful, being proud of who we are. And so I'm hoping that we continue that romper revolution, and that it just grows and grows and grows. And that's the legacy I leave for my kids.
I love it. I love it. And I'm excited to see all the things you continue to do. And I hope to have many more conversations with you offline.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time, and give Matt and Michelle a hug for me. These are two of our executives, and I just happen to have known them, over the years. So, and they're wonderful people. So
they're the best.
They're big hugs from me to them.
Our exec team is like, every morning we have a 9 a.m. huddle, and I'm like, it's my favorite. It's my favorite time of the day. I just love hanging out with this group of humans for like a little quick huddle in the morning, and I continue to learn so much from them. So yeah.
What a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed that last conversation, be sure to check out more episodes of The Craft on Spotify and guest photo galleries on the website at wearethecraft.com. Thanks again for listening.